Brooklyn Independent Television.
This project came about as a result of my thesis project, actually, from graduate school. I teamed up with a choreographer and we did a piece called Women's Work. That started it out with the inventing, and that's when I first invented the little barp, made of rubber bands and coat hangers, and now we play it with skewers, but originally it had paper clips. The original incarnation of the group was way more found object, kind of percussion ensemble.
I've been in the electric Junkyard Gamelan for 8 or 9 years, but I met Terry Dame a few years before then, and we both studied Indonesian gamelan. I was a little bit more focused in the African drumming. I saw her do her invented instrument and was inspired.
She's, definitely the mad scientist, and you never know what you're going to come to. One day I walk in and this is totally different, and then I got to learn how to do that on the spot, and she just doesn't stop thinking. I met Terry through Circus Amok. I was playing drum set and she was the composer and horn player. Through a love of percussion and need, I ended up being one of the players in her ensemble as well.
Gamelan is a kind of music from Indonesia. Most notably, people probably would recognize Balinese gamelan and Javanese gamelan. The word gamelan means literally to strike with a hammer. It also refers to the kind of body of music, and the word means kind of the orchestra. It consists of gongs and xylophone type instruments. There are two kind of key elements to gamelan music. One is interlocking rhythmic patterns. Each person has a partner player, and one person simply plays on the beat and one off the beat. And together, the two patterns that the people play interlock and make a very sophisticated rhythmic pattern. Because the instruments are ever so slightly detuned from each other, when they're played together, they create overtones. So it almost sounds like a choir of flutes is playing, even though there aren't any. It's just the way the collage gets created from all this ringing of the metal with various sized gongs. And it's fascinating music. I was really inspired by it.
The sound of the electric bass and the sound of the big barp are pretty similar in terms of where they sit sonically. Definitely, though, the technique of playing each one is totally different. Whereas electric bass guitar, it's more, you have a fretboard, the notes are all kind of right there, and you're playing, and you're also playing with your fingers. Whereas with the big barp, the notes are completely spread out along the instrument, and you're playing it with a pair of chopsticks, and it's almost, I would compare it more to playing like a hammered dulcimer type of instrument. So it was definitely, for me, I had to really learn a whole new playing technique for how it would work.
Most of our response initially from the audience towards the instruments is one of awe or curiosity, where they see something that looks like garbage or looks like it's from the kitchen, and they don't know what it would sound like. And so everyone's very curious. We played on the street this past summer. We'd always start setting up, and before we could even get close to being done setting up, people would always say, "When are you going to start? We want to hear what this sounds like." We've always been a very environmentally conscious group. Most of the objects to make the instruments are found on the street, leftover garbage or recycled materials. The only exception has been the clay pots, because they break, so we have to have some new clay pots always on hand.
I'm so lucky to have the people I have in my group. We have a rapport together. We also play music together in other ensembles. That's kind of rare for a band to actually last that long. You can tell when you see us perform, we know each other so well, and at this point we really know the instruments really well, because it's a unique performing experience, because really the only time they get to practice is when we're rehearsing, because they don't have their own personal instruments at home to practice on. So I feel, very blessed to be able to have the same group of people committed and enthusiastic for that long. And I think you can really hear that cohesion when we play.
Brooklyn Independent Television on the BCAT TV network.